Hey guys and gals, it's your boy JR, aka Lone Wolf Bushcraft. In today's live stream, I'll be talking about the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks. It's a drama, adventure, romance movie. And once again, it's got Tom Hanks in it. And yeah, that's what I'll be talking about in my live stream, the movie Castaway. Tom Hanks plays a character who's been stranded on an island for 4 years on an uninhabited island. And I thought it'd be fun to talk about the movie Castaway in my live stream. First, I'm going to go to the refrigerator and grab me something to drink. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this live stream about me talking about Castaway. Let me grab me some Mike's Hard Lemonade. Anyways, I hope you guys and gals are all doing well. And yeah, I just thought it'd be a lot of fun talking about the movie Castaway. I thought that would be fun. And it's so funny. That's kind of having a breakfast brunch this morning. And like I said, I thought it'd be fun talking about the movie Castaway. So I thought that'd be a lot of fun. And it looks like I'm going to have plenty to drink. So what I got going on, I got some Mountain Dew, Perrier, Mike's Hard Lemonade, and good old Coca-Cola Zero. So yeah, occasionally what you guys will see me do is I'll sometimes come on my live streams and we'll talk about a specific movie. Hey, what's happening? Good morning. What's up? How's it going? Yep, that's right. So I'll also be talking to subscribers as they come into the live stream. But like I said, I wanted to talk about the movie Castaway. Thought that'd be a fun thing to do. It's funny that I got this food set up too, because well, I'll get into it when I get a little farther in the movie. But it's funny, I got all these drinks set up. It's funny how I personally take being able to go to the refrigerator and get drinks, and then also get foods. I got some dates going here. I got some crackers. I got some. This is hot spicy sausage. Got some hummus going there. Cucumbers. Variety of different cheese. This is truffle cheese. This is marble cheese, and these are green olives. So it's funny. I got all this breakfast stuff, snack breakfast stuff. I'm getting ready to eat. Oh wow. He drinks it almost every day. I also show people's comments in here, so people can also check out their channels. Hey, what's up? Jamie's cool. So, like I said, the focus of this live stream, and the reason I was showing you guys my drinks and my food. Dude, I'm fixing to tear up some. Cool, right up. Thanksgiving food. Yeah, Thanksgiving was yesterday, and I was with some friends and family. And it's funny, even in the movie Castaway, Tom Hanks' character is actually. So let me give you some background about Tom Hanks' character in Castaway. He works for FedEx, and how the movie starts out. First way the movie starts out in Castaway is you see Tom Hanks in this. First you see a lady. She wraps up her package, and she's got a set of. It looks like a set of angel wings on the package, and she delivers it to Russia, right? And so you see this little Russian boy finally this package makes it to Russia, and you see this little Russian boy travel all the way to its package delivery. And the guy picks up the package, and when the guy opens it, you see the guy receive the package, this American guy, and the Russian lady comes behind him, says, "Who's that from?" He said, "Oh, it's from my wife." So this guy's chilling out. But anyways, that's how the movie starts out, right? Hey, Sammy, how's it going? So, and then all of a sudden the scene flashes back to Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks's character, who's talking to these all these Russians. He's working at a FedEx hub in Russia, and it looks like he travels around the world setting up all these different FedExes around the world. And particularly, he's at this FedEx in Russia. And by the way, I'm talking about the movie Castaway, which came out in 2000. So anyways, he's talking to this Russian group, and all of a sudden behind him on a board, he puts up a time, and they have 3 minutes. They have 3 hours to load all their trucks, right? And then the trucks will drive out to the airport. And so right away, the start of the movie, everything's about time, right? So so they get all the trucks loaded up. They go to the airport. One of the trucks ends up getting a boot put on it. And so he gets this call, and so he rushes there. He makes sure he brings 2 vans because he already heard there's a boot on the truck. As soon as the vans pull up, they open up the back, and they start unloading it in both vans, right? And once both vans get all filled up, they immediately take off to the airport. The packages make it there on time, even though one of the trucks had gotten a boot put on it. Part of the reason the boot got put on it, one of the trucks had experienced a flat. So they load up the plane, and he gets on the plane. He flies back to Tennessee, and he even tells he tells his girlfriend exactly what time he's going to get there to Tennessee. So everything's about time, right? And so he gets to Tennessee, and when they wake up in the morning, or when they wake up in the afternoon, they end up having this Thanksgiving feast in Castaway, in the movie Castaway. And what's funny, after they're finished their Thanksgiving, the couple is all of a sudden in a scene where they're looking at each other's planners, right? And they're actually planning around the holidays, around his FedEx schedule, right? So once again, you're being reminded in Castaway, time's a ticking, right? You know. And even when he was giving that speech to the group back in Russia, he said, we're always fighting against time. So the movie in the movie Castaway, it's always stressing about time, right? And so, time's of the essence. So after they're finished working in their day planners, he's driving to the airport, and he's flying out to another FedEx hub. And it's in the holidays. They exchange presents, and then after they exchange presents, he hands them one last present that's more than likely probably has a ring in it, right? And he says to her, "Don't open it until I come back," right? So he gets on the FedEx plane, and so the FedEx plane's flying, and it's he's in his usual routine. He's always flying somewhere, right? He's always flying somewhere. No problem, Sammy. Anyways, Tom Hanks' character gets on the plane, and they're flying, right? And then all of a sudden, this plane eventually runs into a storm, right? So the plane runs into a storm, and it's a real bad storm. I mean, the plane's just shaking. But before that plane had ran into a storm, he was listening to music. He got to open up this before he got on his flight. His lady bought him one of these timepieces where you open up and it's got her picture in it. And once again, the movie's focusing on time, right? Just by him getting that pocket watch and opening up and watching it, right? So he takes his pocket watch, and her favorite his favorite picture of his girlfriend is in this pocket watch, right? And this pocket watch is also a family heirloom. So he gets on the flight, and you see him. He had fell asleep, but he's got some. I think they're things you plug in. They're not this thing. They're those things that cancel out the noise, right? So it shows him with a black blindfold. He's sitting in his FedEx airline seat, and his back is the guy's in the cockpit. I mean, that's how close he is. His seat's up against the cockpit of the plane. And so he's got these noise cancellation things in his ears, but he's got a black thing that it's like this some people go to sleep with some blinds. So he doesn't see the airplane lights while he's trying to sleep, right? And he's got the noise cancellation. What causes him to wake up is the plane kind of moves. So he kind of moves in his airline seat like that in the FedEx plane. So he sits up. The rumbling had stopped in the plane. And so he decides to stand up. He unbuckles his seatbelt and he's looking. And he's, like I said, he had been sitting behind the cockpit. And so he's looking at where they're at, and he's listening to where the pilots are saying they're at or where they're flying over. So they're basically flying over the ocean, right? And all of a sudden, the plane really starts experiencing really bad turbulence. And so one of the airline dudes get Tom Hanks' character fastened back in his seatbelt. And then all of a sudden the plane just shakes really hard again. And then all of a sudden he starts hearing the pilots call a distress signal while the plane's, experiencing. And then all of a sudden the plane starts shaking again. And then I think one of the airline people got hit in the head because the plane went like this suddenly. And this guy was not strapped in a seat, one of the airline people, so he hits his head. And yeah, he says he doesn't like. I actually love to fly, even when I saw this scene from the 2000 movie Castaway. So the guy hits his head because the plane went like this suddenly. So Tom Hanks' character takes off his seatbelt. He goes and tries to assist the pilot guy. And then there's kind of a mesh thing that keeps the cargo and the cockpit separate. It's a mesh thing. And so he curls himself in that mesh thing. And he ended up picking up his watch that he got for his as a gift. He puts that in his pocket. The plane's shaking like this with really bad turbulence. And like I said, he's literally behind the cockpit. Hey, good morning, Adrian. I'm talking about the movie Castaway. Anyways, turbulence is getting worse and worse. And then finally, he realizes he's realizing the pilots are calling a distress signal. And all of a sudden, he realizes the plane's about to go down. So one of the airline dudes gives him an inflatable raft to hold. He makes Tom Hanks buckle in the seat, and he gives him an airline thing to hold, right? And so he's holding this raft thing, right? And then he notices one of the airline dudes is still hurt, so he ends up assisting that dude a little bit while trying to hold on to the raft at the same time. And then all of a sudden, boom, the plane just hits the water. And he sees it coming because he sees the same view as the pilots do. And he knows the plane's about to hit the water. So he braces himself as best he can. Finally, it hits the water. The plane starts sinking. And then the water starts filling up in the plane really fast. And so much water got in the plane that it ended up breaking the plane in half. And then he went ahead and started, he pulled the string that inflates a raft. And this raft sits about 4 people, could probably sit about 4 or 5 people. So the raft starts pulling him up through the water. And he's holding on to it like this. And the raft's pulling him up to the top of the ocean. Finally, he makes it out of the ocean, but he's close to this airplane engine, and it's just spinning. The plane debris is all over the ocean, and he makes it onto this raft, right? But all of a sudden, this huge airplane engine is really close to him in the raft, so he starts having to pedal really. So he's trying to swim away from this huge airplane engine going like this. And then, like I said, he's swimming as fast as he can to get away from the airplane engine that's spinning. So it's spinning really fast. And finally, when the airplane engine hits the water, it blows up, right? But he paddled enough away. It does knock him out of the raft a little bit. But then Tom Hanks' character climbs back in the raft. And so there's still a storm, really bad storm going on. He was lucky enough to get away from the airplane engine before it hit the water and blew up. And like I said, there's plane debris all over the place, and it's pitch black, and it's raining, and the waves are getting bigger and bigger. So he's literally laying back on the raft, holding. There's a white string all the way around the 5-person raft. So he's holding onto the string while water just keeps pouring on him in the middle of the night, and it's pitch black. So finally, he finally wakes up, right? And the raft itself had floated onto the shore of this beach, right? And he's been out of it. He's been he asleep, and the sun's been baking him, right? So he's immediately all sunburned while he's waking up. He's coughing a little bit because his throat's dry, and he gets out of the yellow raft, and he doesn't step out. He crawls out of the raft, right? And he lays there for a little bit, trying to get his senses where he's at. And finally, he gets enough strength to stand up and start walking and seeing what's happening. So he grabs his yellow raft and pulls it more into the island. And he ends up picking like 3 or 4 packages up, and he sets them there. And he's really trying to assess the situation. Yeah, his beeper, he still had his beeper on him. Hey, have a good work, my friend. Yep, you have a good day too, man. And I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. So he realizes his beeper's on him, so he's checking his beeper. The beeper's totally soaking wet; it's ruined. And he ends up later opening up the packages, and I think in one of the packages there were a pair of ice skates, and basically and then there's one package he decides not to open. It's the package that's got some angel wings on it. So out of all the packages, he left one package that I think he was going to save for later, right? That he didn't want to open. And so he saves one of the packages that he wanted to open. And one of the things he does, he writes on the sand the word help really big. But then he watched the tide change. And even though he wrote help on the sand really big, it ends up pulling that help away. So then he grabs a bunch of large longs and sticks and writes the word help as well. And so you see him doing a series of he ends up taking coconuts, and once he's finished hollowing out the coconuts, he uses them to collect the water, right? And so he starts setting up a lot of things to collect the water. So anytime it rains really hard, he's collecting water, right? And then the first time he catches a crab or kills a crab, it's funny I'm eating this word, because in the movie Castaway, a lot of it focuses on him trying to procure food while he's on this uninhabited island. His very first day on the island, he starts yelling out for help, and is anybody there? So he's screaming for help really, really loud. And by the way, I'm talking about the movie Castaway that came out in 2020. And I'm sorry, that came out in the year 2000. It has Tom Hanks in it. And Tom Hanks' character is a man who was riding on a FedEx plane. He's a big FedEx guy. He's always focusing on time. His plane has crashed on an uninhabited island. Well, the plane crashed out in the ocean, and then he washed ashore the next morning in this uninhabited island. And the first thing he does is he yells out for help, screaming, "Is anybody there? Help! Is anybody there? Help!" And no one answers. And so right away he realizes he's alone on this uninhabited island. And like I said, he starts assessing what he has. He opens up the packages. One of them had a pair of ice skates in it. I guess the reason I remember the ice skates so much is he ends up taking the blade off the ice skates and uses it to cut coconuts later. He also uses it and turns it into like almost puts one of the ice skates on one of the ice blades on the long pieces of wood and basically makes it into a hatchet so he can chop trees and stuff. So he starts doing more and more of these survival tasks, because he's just trying to stay alive, right? He's really trying to stay alive. So, but what's wild is his first year that he's surviving on this uninhabited island, he's really learning. That's a nice date. He's really learning how to survive for the first time on the first year he's on this uninhabited island. Now, during that first year he's on the uninhabited island, or I think when he first gets stranded, I don't think he has no clue. He has no clue that he's even going to spend a year. And then he ends up spending 4 years on this uninhabited island. And he has no clue, at least when he first shipwrecks there, he has no clue that he's going to stay 4 years on an uninhabited island. And his first year, he's doing all these moves, thinking someone's going to see his signs from help from the air or something, So I think his first year, he has a lot of hope. Because he's doing a lot of those things that you could, and eventually he learns how to make fire. And there's a scene where he celebrates that in Castaway, him finally making fire. And so he's all excited because he made this fire. And so his first year, he's achieved a lot of things. He's learned how to build a shelter. Like I said, he didn't think he was going to stay on an uninhabited island for a year. So his first year, he makes fire. He's learned how to build a shelter. And now he's learning how to fish better. He's spear fishing. He's walking along the ocean, and he's fish that he's able to get close to, he spears and catches, right? And he's also learned the nice thing that about him getting fire going, he's also now cooking his crabs that he catches. So he's getting food in his system. He's getting better at hunting and gathering. And but like I said, that first year he spends on island, his attitude is, hopefully, now that he's known how to procure water, like I said, every time it rains heavily, hey, Penis. Hi, Penis Habit. So
So he's got his water covered because every time it rains heavy, these coconuts collect water, even from places where it's kind of dipped a little bit on a shelter that's collecting water. So he's got the water down, he's got the food down, but he's not, like I said, he's on a secluded island. Um, he's literally having to fish every day. Like the island itself is uninhabited. So I'm sure that first year he's stranded on the island, he's probably dreaming when he'd be able to go to the supermarket. He's probably dreaming stuff like that. Thanks, Penis Habit. Oh, I had an awesome Thanksgiving. So, yeah, but even though he's procuring food, it's still kind of rough. His body's getting used to eating crabs that he catches and cooks on the fire, eating fish. It took him a while to get really good at spearing the fish, and it took him a while good at catching crabs. But when he finally cooks his first crab in Castaway, he's so grateful because he had been drinking coconut water and eating coconuts, and he had gotten tired of that when the first year he was stranded on an uninhabited island. He got tired of eating coconuts and drinking the coconut water, which he stated in the movie was like a laxative. So he's grateful for this fish that he's catching while he's on this uninhabited island for the first year. The second year, like I said, his hunting skills or his hunting and gathering skills are getting better. His second year on the uninhabited island, and so during his first and second year, he's watching the weather, and the currents and stuff, and oh wow! During his first year, he did try to make an escape to the island, right? I don't know if it's halfway through his first year or at the start of his first year, but he gets on the yellow raft and he just starts pedaling out there, right? He finally gets a little ways away from the island, so he's swimming in the yellow raft, right? And then all of a sudden, the waves just get too big for this yellow raft, and for some reason, the yellow floating raft cannot, handle the hue, and then it ends up flipping the raft over, and then wave after wave keeps pounding him deeper in water, and he ends up cutting his leg, and at first you think he's going to drown because the water just keeps, wave after wave keeps pounding him deeper in the water. Finally, he gets out of that water, and then he has to patch up his leg. So during his first year, he did try to escape the island, but it didn't work. The raft was just too small, and the waves were just too big. So, and also his raft got ruined. A big hole got punctured in it, so his raft is not usable anymore. But he ends up still using his raft as a tarp. So he puts that, and so he shelves escaping from the island for a little bit. So his second and third year are more focused on hunting, gathering, and hoping he's basically hoping someone will find him. And by the way, I'm talking about the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks in it. It's a guy that ends up being stranded on an island for 4 years on an uninhabited island. So I think his second and third year on the uninhabited island, he's more focused on, he's more hoping someone will find him and come and rescue him. And once again, he didn't realize as 2 years go by, he's starting to realize, particularly when he's in his third year on the uninhabited island, he's coming to the realization that, and what he drew on these rocks. And what's funny is, even though he doesn't have a watch anymore, well, he has that pocket watch with him that he got as a gift, but it got so soaked with water it doesn't work anymore. But he draws with in this cave that he's in. He's still keeping count of the months going by and the days going by. And like I said, during his third year on this uninhabited island, he's coming to the realization that the world might think he had died in a plane crash. And so the third year on the uninhabited island, he realizes that maybe no one will come look for him. And so on the third year on the uninhabited island, or at the start of the at the start of the fourth year on the uninhabited island, he starts making plans to try to escape the island one more time. And this attempt will be only his second attempt of trying to escape the uninhabited island. And so he envisions this big raft he's going to make, right? And he ends up cutting quite a lot of trees down. Oh, before he even makes this big raft, he's asleep in his cave, right? And oh man, I'm skipping too much through the story. In one of the packages that he opened when he first came to the island, one of the package had a Wilson soccer ball in it. And in the first year he was on the uninhabited island, he had gotten injured and he was patching up his leg. He on the first year, when he tried to escape the first time, and his yellow raft got overwhelmed, and he ended up that got punctured, and he ended up injuring his leg. He had this Wilson soccer ball, right? So he patched up his leg. He's doing some kind of survival task, and he ends up hurting his hand, right? And he gets so mad that he grabs the soccer ball like this, and his hand's all bloody when he grabs the soccer ball. So he grabs the soccer ball, and I can't remember if he kicks or if he chucks it. But anyways, he either kicks it or throws it away. And after he comes down from getting so upset from getting injured, he walks over to the soccer ball, and the soccer ball has got almost a handprint like this on it, right? Like, here's the soccer ball, right? And so he decides to go like this and this to make like white circles there. And then he makes a little, kind of makes like a pupil in the two white socket areas. And then the mouth area, I think it's where there's a seam on the soccer ball, he makes kind of like a mouth, right? And he what's funny, his Wilson soccer ball, he ends up calling this soccer ball Wilson, right? And there's a scene where he's trying to make fire for the first time, and he's got the soccer ball kind of sitting like this, right? And of course, it's got the red handprint on the soccer ball, and so he's kind of talking to the soccer ball while he's trying to make fire, and it's hilarious, and so he ends up kind of, something to look at and something to talk to. I think it's something to keep his mind off of him being stranded on this isolated, uninhabited island. And so you see why. So there's little scenes like that in the movie Castaway, where he's talking to his soccer ball, right? And so fast forward to the fourth year on the uninhabited island. He's talking to Wilson, the soccer ball, again. And he's telling Wilson about the currents and the wind, and the wind direction has to be perfect. And I think at this time, Tom Hanks's character is making up his mind that if he doesn't make a second attempt on the of trying to escape the island, the uninhabited island, if he doesn't do that, he's afraid he's going to die alone on this uninhabited island. And so far, he's spent 4 years on this uninhabited island. So he's made up in his mind he doesn't want to spend another year on the uninhabited island. 4 years is enough. He's ready to try to escape again. But what really gives him an idea to start even building a raft in the first place, he's in the cave. He's talking to Wilson, the soccer ball. And all of a sudden, a part of his realistic scientific side grabs a hold of him and goes, why in the hell am I talking to this stupid Wilson soccer ball? So he ends up grabbing it and throwing it out of his cave, right? And then only a few minutes passes when he feels really bad that he chucked this soccer ball out of his cave. So he starts running, Wilson, Wilson, where are you, Wilson? And his cave must be a little bit up on a hill because he's having to climb down. Wilson, Wilson, where are you, Wilson? You know, he's developed this relationship or this character he's created called Wilson. So he's panicking because he had chucked the soccer ball out of his cave. Wilson, where are you, Wilson? And then all of a sudden, you see Wilson on kind of stuck between some little rocks on the shore. And so he's happy that he found Wilson, and he picks up the soccer ball. Oh, Wilson, I'm so glad I found you. I'm glad I found you, Wilson. He goes, I'll never do that again, Wilson. I'll never, I'll never do that. And then all of a sudden, he sees this. It looks like a corner of a porta potty, right? It's got one corner, it's got two things like this, and it's an abandoned porta potty, but it's only half a corner of it, right? And he ends up where it reads where it comes from, and it sounded like it came from the States. There's words on it. I can't remember I don't know. Let's just say it says Albuquerque, or it could have said Indianapolis, Indiana. I can't remember where, but anyways, it definitely sounds like it comes from the States, right? And so he sets the porta potty up, right? Like I said, it's got a corner, but it's enough of a corner where he can stand it up. And like I said, it's a partial porta potty, right? So he's looking at it, right? He's looking at it, and all of a sudden he gets an idea of what he wants to do with that corner of the porta potty, right? And so he goes back in his cave and he's talking to Wilson. He's looking at this makeshift calendar that he's etched on the rock, and also what he's etched on the rock is the tides. You know, what kind of tides have been coming in? What's the weather been like? Or what's the wind direction's been like? And so, and he's pretty good at knowing north and south. So he knows which direction he wants to take this large raft if he ends up building a large raft. And then he looks at Wilson and he says, I know it's dangerous. I know it's risky, but he says, Wilson, we gotta get off this island. You know, we got to do it. And so he ends up saying he's got to create 40 lashes, and it's going to take a lot of rope. And so he ends up getting parts of the bark of these real thin trees and start making his own makeshift rope, right? And he needs 40 lashes. So he starts working on his raft, and it's really occupying his mind. The original skate that he made into like a hatchet, he starts chopping longer and bigger trees. And so he makes a really big raft with these really big logs, really long trees. He's making this raft. Just to give you a size of this raft, Yeah, picture another table next to this that same size. So yeah, that's how big the raft is. Picture two of these put together. So he makes the raft that wide, and he's got really big logs at the bottom of it, and so the raft making's coming along nicely. But then all of a sudden he runs out of this tree bark that he turns into rope. He realizes he needs a little bit more rope, and he sees this rope really high, way up on this, way up on this ledge. So he decides to climb up and get this last piece of rope, And before he climbs up there, he looks at Wilson and says, yeah, I know it's dangerous. I know I shouldn't be climbing off the rocks and ledge, but I need that last bit of rope to complete my raft. I got to do it. So he starts making his climb up to this large ledge. And by then, Tom Hanks' character, his hair's really long. He's got really long facial hair. He's been out in the sun so much and also in the ocean so much that his hair's almost turned all blonde, and he's got a beard. And he's fit, but he's really skinny because he doesn't always catch fish and crabs every day. And so he's not eating heartily all the time. So he's frail, right? So here's this real skinny guy with the long hair and the beard, and he's climbing up this ledge to get this piece of rope that seems to be hanging from this ledge. And he's reaching out, right? He's having to lean way over the ledge to try and reach out and grab this rope. Finally, he grabs the rope, and once he grabs the rope, you see him pulling up the rope, right? So he's pulling up the rope. And finally, when he pulls up the final part of the rope, it's got a tree that looks like this. There's a wooden tree that looks like this, that looks like it has a head and it looks like it has arms, right? And there's a noose on this wooden tree like this. And at first, you don't understand why there's a noose around a tree that looks like this. And you won't understand that until later in the movie, right? So he takes the noose off this tree that almost looked like a human, right? And so finally he's got his last piece of rope. And when I get to the end of the story, I'll explain further that tree that looks like a person that had a noose on it. So I'll explain that later when I talk later in the story. So he takes the noose off the wooden tree that almost looked like this. He's got enough. That was the amount of rope that he needed to finish his really large raft. So he finishes it, and he turns the corner of the porta potty. He faces the corner this way and folds it down on the raft. And basically, it's almost making like an A-frame for his. It almost makes him like a tent-like character for his raft, for his large raft. And so his raft is so huge and so large that it's put on two really big logs. He has to give one big stick to even put the raft in the water, right? So he puts the big stick down, and before he even launches his raft, while he's finishing up his raft, he sticks a pole in the ground, and he puts like a cloth-like material so he can tell which direction the wind's going. Because he doesn't want to launch his large raft until he has the right wind direction. So at first, the little piece of material starts going this way, which is the way he wants the wind to be going, and then all of a sudden it whips back that way. So he's waiting for the material to be more consistent to hang this way, right? And so he continues to work on his raft. Finally, he has his raft done, and finally, even though it'd been the little piece of material been flying this way, finally it starts flying that way, and then he realizes it's launch time, right? So he already has Wilson, this soccer ball he's been talking to for the 4 years he's been on this uninhabited island. He lashes it to a couple pieces of wood, lashes it really good, puts extra string on that so he doesn't lose his friend Wilson, which is a soccer ball. And So he lashes that to his raft. It's time to launch his very large raft. Hey, what's up? So the wind direction's going in the right place. Hey, Hong Kong. I'm talking about the movie Castaway that had Tom Hanks in it. It came out in 2000. So the wind finally going in the right direction. He sticks his large stick into the ground and he pushes his raft onto the ocean. And then he jumps in the water, climbs up on his raft. And all of a sudden, you remember the very first time he tried to leave the island, which was the first year he was on the uninhabited island. You realize how much of that of a failure it was. But the cool thing is he's on a much bigger, huge wood log raft, right? So you have a feeling he may make it, right? But you're not sure because you realize the first time he failed, right? So he's on his 4th year on the uninhabited island. Now he's on this large wood raft. And the reason he came to this point, he was afraid he was going to die alone on this uninhabited island. So he's pedaling out. He's got 2 really large things that he made like paddles. So he starts pedaling out, and he knows that eventually he's going to get to the huge waves that at first ruined his first time that he tried to escape the island. So he's pedaling it out, and he's going like this with his 2 large sticks that he fashioned to make paddles. And finally, he's come to the point where the ocean waters are getting larger and larger. And then all of a sudden, there's one that looks like it's getting really too large. And all of a sudden, he stops paddling. He leans on his raft like this. And at the last second, the one wave looks like it's going to take him over. All of a sudden, he pulls the string, and it shoots out the corner of the porta potty, right? Almost makes it like a sail. And then he ends up riding the huge wave and finally makes it over top of that wave. And then he realizes he's now able to escape the island. So, but he keeps the porta potty thing up that's almost like acting like a sail, right? And so, so his little raft's going a little bit faster, and he's still paddling it while it's sailing, right? And so he's up on this. So he's happy, like he realizes his plan's working. So he keeps paddling, and so he paddles for several days, sees some really interesting large whales, and he, like I said, whenever he's not using the porta potty as a sail, he lowers it down so he has a little bit of shade. He's got coconuts on his large raft to gather water. He's brought himself some makeshift food to eat while he's on his raft. And occasionally he'll jump in the water and spearfish some fish to eat fish while he's on this raft. So you see him gathering water while he's floating on the ocean on his large wooden raft. And you also see him catching fish. And then he ends up, a bad storm comes up in the middle of the night. And he ends up, it's really bad storm. As a matter of fact, the storm's so bad, it ends up ripping the porta potty sail right off his raft, right? So now he's not able to use that anymore. It's gone. So the toll on it must have took him, because he's just laying on the raft now. And you don't know how long he's been laying there, right? So he could have been laying there, or he could have fallen asleep and been out baking in the sun for days, right, on this large wooden raft. Meanwhile, Wilson is still tethered between Wilson, the soccer ball, is still lashed to these 2 pieces of wood that's kind of going like this in the water, right? And then all of a sudden, you see Wilson fall off. Because of the storm, it must have made the lashings weak. And so Wilson, the soccer ball, ends up falling off, right? All of a sudden, this whale comes by that blows and starts raining water on him, right? And the whale does it a couple times, and this waterfall on him wakes him up. And all of a sudden, he sees his soccer ball that he created as a friend. He sees Wilson floating in the water. So he decides to jump off his raft. He doesn't realize he's been laying there for days out of it. And so he first starts to paddle. He's got a long string he can use to pull his wood raft along with him while he's trying to swim out to Wilson. He said, I'm coming, Wilson. I'm coming to get you, Wilson. I'm coming to get you, Wilson. So he's paddle, 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 paddle. Finally, some waves start coming by and knocking. They're not big waves, but they're just enough to stop his swimming and really tire him out. Finally, he ends up he ends up letting go of the string of the large wood raft, right? Still tries to swim towards Wilson a little bit. And then the waves are moving Wilson farther and farther away from him. And then he realizes he needs to get back to the raft, or he realizes he doesn't have enough strength to get Wilson and go back to the raft at the same time. So he has to make a choice, right? He decides, I'm going to swim back to the raft. So he only has enough energy to swim back to his large wooden raft. And when he gets on top of that raft, he sees Wilson floating farther and farther away. And he starts screaming, I'm sorry, Wilson. I'm sorry, Wilson. So he starts crying. He lays on the raft. And he goes, I'm sorry, Wilson. I'm sorry. And so it was really emotional losing Wilson because it's a thing he had talked to on this isolated island for 4 years. So you feel kind of sad. Well, it's just really sad because you see Wilson floating away, and you see how torn up he is, losing Wilson, the soccer ball that had kind of a red handprint on it, and that he made into like a face. And he talked to that for 4 years while he was on that isolated island. So he's wasted all his energy's gone. Like he can't fish anymore. I think his coconuts all got blown away. So all the things he was using to gather up water are gone. And so he realizes all the things he needs to sustain life are gone, flew off this large raft. And now he's lost his Wilson, the soccer ball. And so he takes his 2 oars and just leaves them. He pushes his 2 oars that he normally rows his big, large wood raft. It's a real profound scene. You see him take his large 2 oars and just let them go. So he's resigning to the fact that no one's going to find him. And he wants his last hours to be peaceful. And he's given up the struggle. He doesn't think anyone's going to find him on this large wood raft. So he lets go of the large wood paddles that he made. And because he can't collect water anymore, like I said, it knocked all of his supplies out. The storm did the night before. So he's resigned to the fact that that's going to be his fate. And so he lays down on the raft and he ends up falling asleep. And all of a sudden, while he's laying there asleep, you see this huge ship that normally carries those huge large metal crates, those huge ships, right? The ship's going by him, right? And then there's this whale happens to go by as well and shooting water once again. And it's kind of waking enough water splashes on him from the whale that he looks up and he sees this large ship, right? It's a large shipping container ship. And he's laying like this, right? And he barely has enough energy to go like this to try and signal for someone that he's laying on this large wooden raft. And then you hear the large ship ring this kind of like alarm sound, So the ship has seen him, right? But he doesn't know it because he goes like this and then he kind of goes out of it, right? And the next thing you see him is he's on a plane, right? And so the next time you see him, hey, what's up, Korea? So the next time you see him, his hair's all cut. His hair's back to normal. He has no facial hair, and he's flying back home, right? But what he doesn't realize is he's been recovering in a hospital before he even got on a plane to fly back to the States, right? But they don't show that in the movie. You see that later in newspaper clippings that his girlfriend had, right? And so he's on the plane flying back to the States. Hey. And so Tom Hanks' character in the movie Castaway, since you see him, his hair's cut, he has no facial hair. He's talking to another FedEx member who's filling him in that they had a funeral for him, and that a lot of people, since he had been missing for 4 years, they figured he was dead, and so they had a funeral for him. And he looked at the FedEx guy, and he was a bigwig FedEx guy himself. He said, well, "What did you put in the coffin?" He said, "Everyone put some personal items that they had of him inside the coffin." And so here his girlfriend had thought. Everyone kept telling his girlfriend that he's gone. He's gone. You need to realize he's gone. Hey, what's up? And so. So the higher up FedEx guy tells him that, yeah, we had your funeral. We thought you had perished in the plane crash, but we're glad you're back. And so Tom Hanks' character realizes, he's very grateful that they found him and he got rescued and that he healed up in the hospital. So Tom Hanks' character is very grateful, but he doesn't know what he's going to say to his girlfriend because he's been away for 4 years. And then he ended up finding out that his girlfriend had married and has already had a kid already, right? And so, he was supposed to marry his girl when he got back, but he didn't know he was going to be stranded on an island for 4 years on an uninhabited island. But anyways, he's on the plane. He's eating a little bit of food on the plane. He's trying to get acclimated to modern life. So he's really trying to get acclimated to modern life. But you feel happy for Tom Hanks' character, but at the same time, you're like, oh my God, what is he going to say to his former girlfriend? I mean, what do you say? What do you say to a lady who ended up getting married and ended up having a child, and now it's almost like you've come back from the dead, right? Because they literally thought he had died in the plane crash. But anyways, Tom Hanks' character is very relieved, but he's trying to get acclimated to modern life, right? They switched to the scene where they had already televised him, FedEx, welcoming him back. And so Tom Hanks walks into this lobby area of FedEx, and there's a guy that greets him, and the guy ends up introducing him as the husband of it's his former girlfriend's husband, right? And so the husband explains that the girlfriend really did want to come, and she's really confused at this time. That she really did want to come and say hi, but just was too emotional, right? So the husband leaves, and the husband told the guy, "Welcome home." Tom Hanks guy, "Welcome home. Sorry this has happened." And I think the husband used to be the former dentist of Tom Hanks's character. So it's a really awkward scene. Tom Hanks knows this guy. Now this guy's married to his lady. But, everyone kept telling his girlfriend that he probably died in the plane crash, right? So, because they never found him for 4 years. So Tom Hanks is looking out between the blinds, and he sees the husband go up to his former girlfriend, and she's crying, and she's really emotional, and they get in the car and they drive home. And then Tom Hanks, the next scene, you see him celebrating in a hotel with all the FedEx employees and his family and friends. And they decide to wrap the party up. And when they leave, he's all alone in this apartment, right? And he's looking at all this food on this table while everyone's now left the party, and he's alone in his hotel room. And before they all left the hotel room, one of the big FedEx guys said, "Hey, it's going to be wild. We're going to get all the correct paperwork tomorrow and bring you. It's like we're bringing you back to life." So, because there's all kinds of legal paperwork they need to do, because they thought they had a funeral for this guy. So he says goodbye to all of them, and like I said, they're in a hotel room. And it's a big hotel room. It looked like they rented a penthouse for him. So he's in this huge penthouse hotel room. The party's over. They all just left. And he's looking at all this food, right? And there was a little bit of sushi, and there was even crab legs there. And he kind of when he picked up the crab leg, he kind of dropped it on the plate because he had ate crab a bunch when he was on that uninhabited island. And so, um, in the middle of the night, he one of the things he used to do on this uninhabited island. Oh my God! I got to go a little back in the story. I think the first year he was on the uninhabited island, he did find one of the pilots that was floating in the water. Hey, what's up? I'm talking about the movie Castaway that has Tom Hanks in it. So, anyways, I got to go back a little back in the story. He did find one of the flight pilots was floating in the water. And at first, he was hoping to find them alive, so he swims out to the body. Then he realizes the body's face down. As soon as he flips the body over, he recognizes the pilot, and he starts going like this and crying. And so he's really emotional. He got really emotional, and yeah, it was super emotional. And so he ends up pulling this pilot out. He opens the wallet. You see, this guy had a family. Takes a picture out of the wallet, stuffs it in the guy's pocket. He takes off the guy's shoes, right? And he puts the shoes up to his feet, and his toes go past the shoe, right? So he ends up cutting the front of the shoe off to make like that shoe into a sandal, so he could keep have his toes poke out. So and then he ended up burying that pilot guy. So and then he found a flashlight. The flashlight was still working that was on this pilot guy. And so he realizes the flashlight's working. And whenever he's in his shelter, he turns on the flashlight. There's this timepiece that his former girlfriend had given before he went on the flight that crashed into the ocean. He opened up this timepiece, and it's got her picture in it. So at nighttime, he would just blink. He would take the flashlight and go like this, turn it on and off, and just to look at her picture, right? So he turned the flashlight on and off. And so he did that. Eventually, that flashlight went out, and he couldn't do that. So while he's in his hotel room, he's grateful that he got found. He can't believe he lived on an uninhabited island for 4 years by himself. He was glad he was found on the ocean on his large raft. And then, of course, he's in his hotel room. It's really dark at night. Like I said, everyone's left. Earlier in the day, he looked at all the food that had been laid out. He laughed at the crab legs because he ate a bunch of crab legs when he was on the uninhabited island. And then finally it gets to be nighttime, and instead of laying in the bed, he's laying on the floor, and he's laying on the floor. Hey, what's up, Jack? I'm talking about the movie Castaway. So Tom Hanks' character is laying on the floor, and he's turning the bedroom lights on and off, and it's to look at the picture. He's turning this lamp. I think it was a tableside lamp. He's turning this tableside lamp on and off to look at his former girlfriend's picture. And he's just, and like I said, his character is still grateful. In the movie Castaway, Tom Hanks' character is still grateful that he survived this ordeal, And finally gets to be the middle. Hey, what's up? Finally gets to be in the middle of the night. He decides to get dressed and go over to his former girlfriend's house. And when he makes it there, it's raining. I mean, it's pouring rain, right? And he goes up to the doorbell to go press the doorbell, and he decides not to. At the last second, he decided not to press the doorbell, right? And all of a sudden his former girlfriend opens the door, right? And she sees Tom Hanks' character, and it's pouring rain. She says, get in here, get out of the rain. So his former girlfriend invites him inside, and she asked him if he'd like something to drink. He said, sure, that'd be nice. And on the refrigerator, he noticed all these family pictures, and he says to his former girlfriend, oh, I see you have a daughter. And she ends up telling the daughter's name to him. He says, that's a pretty name. And like I said, I was cracking up whenever he looked at all the food that was on the table while I was at that hotel. Anyways, he's in his former girlfriend's house, and he thinks that's awesome. She had a daughter. And then he says, aren't you Dr. So-and-so now? And she said, well, when you died, or when people thought you were dead, she goes, a lot of things were put on hold. And so she didn't finish up her degree to become a doctor. And so he tells her that, I hope you take that up again, maybe. And so so she takes him into this she takes him into the dining room. And she says to him, I just knew it in my bones you were not dead. I knew you were not dead. And she takes him into this dining room. It's got all these newspaper clippings of that he had been found finally, and he was recovering in the hospital. So she pulls out this map, right? And he had told his former girlfriend which uninhabited island he was on. And she was able to show him on a map how far he had floated away from the original crash site when his plane had crashed in the ocean. And she goes, right here is where the plane had crashed over the ocean. And then here's your island here that you had been on for 4 years. And she explained to him all the different shipping containers that were looking after him, trying to look for him. A lot of flyovers happened. And she was explaining to him a lot of people went looking for him, went looking for survivors for a really long time. But then they had to call it the search off because they just couldn't find anybody. And then so she explained to him that's why he probably was on that uninhabited island for 4 years, because they just simply couldn't find him. And so she goes, oh, I want to show you something. So they leave the house. It's still pouring rain. But then they walk to the garage, right? And while they walk in, or as soon as she opens up the garage, he recognizes his vehicle. And it's kind of in the shape of, it's hard to tell the color of the car, but it almost looked like either it was a dark color. I don't know if it's dark gray or blue or whatever, or anyways, it's a dark color. It almost looked kind of grayish. Anyways, he goes, wow, that's our car. You kept it all this time. She goes, yeah. And so she hands him the keys. She's giving him the car, right? And it looked like it kind of reminded me of the shape of like of a Jeep SUV. It was that was the shape of the car. So she gave him the keys to that car, that Jeep looking like SUV. And he looks up at his girlfriend and said, wow, we had a lot of memories in this car. She goes, yeah, we sure have. And so he pulls the car out of the garage. It's pouring rain. So he drives to the end of the drive. She's standing in the detached garage watching him drive away. As soon as he turns the corner, she starts running in the rain, starts screaming the name, running. And he pulls his car back. And he jumps out of the car, and they end up embracing and hugging and kissing. And he gets back in the car, and then she gets back in the car. And then he looks at her and says, you have to go home, don't you? And she kind of gives him this look like, yeah, I got to go home. So he ends up backing up the car, pulling back in the driveway, and then pulls the car back in the detached garage. And Oh, and to explain what I told you guys earlier in the story, where he found his last piece of rope, or he had to go up on that ledge and get that last piece of rope, and it had a human body form, kind of like this, a human log like this, that had a noose around it. He told his friend on the plane when he had finally been rescued and was eating food on the plane, he had told his friend that since he thought he was never going to make it off that island, that he was testing the strength of this rope. So the plan was he was going to hang himself, because he didn't think he was going to make it off the island, and he wanted to decide the time and place and when he was going to die, right? So when he dropped the log, the the thing kind of snapped and it kind of broke and just laid on the ledge. So he said even when he was trying to hurt himself or take himself out, he couldn't even do that correctly, right? He said, you know me, I always got to test things before I, use them, right? So he gave up on that idea of taking himself out by hanging. So that explained why there was a log that almost looked like a person that had a noose around it. So, but then later he realized, and it was towards the end of that 4 years on the ice. He was on an uninhabited island for 4 years. He decided he wanted to take his chances out on the ocean on that large raft. And in this case, it ended up paying off for him. So, and then that's how the movie ends. It ends with him. There's the last scene in the movie. He's talking to his friend again. This is after he finished visiting his former girlfriend, and he's got his old car that he used to have with his former girlfriend. So the last scene in the movie, he's talking to his other FedEx friend, and he says, he said that thinking of his former girl, at the time he didn't know. He said, my former girlfriend was with me the whole time I was on that uninhabited island for 4 years. He said, I'm so grateful. He of course he's sad that his girlfriend had married someone while he was gone for 4 years. But he looked at his friend. He said, he says, you never know what the tide's going to bring in. And so he was so grateful, particularly the thing that he got to make like a makeshift sail. It just came in with the tide. And he said the sun will rise again, and the tide will come in and the sun will always rise again. And you never know what the tide will bring. And that wasn't the end of the movie. The end of the movie was him finally delivering that final package, right? And so he ends up making it to the address of the final package. And for some reason, the place looks like Texas almost. I don't know why, but kind of reminds me of Texas. So he drives up to this house, and he can't find the owner anywhere. So he writes a little note, and on the note it said, "This package saved my life." And so he sets that note in. He has the door hold the note that says, "This package saved my life." And he lays the package on there, and the package is the one that had the wings on it. So he lays this FedEx package there, and he drives away. And he comes to this fork in the road, right? He comes up to this. It's not a fork in the road. I'll take that back. He drives up. After he finished delivering the FedEx package, he drives up to this four-way. It's a four-way stop area, and all of a sudden, this lady drives up to him. He gets out of his car. He lays out a map. He's trying to decide where he wants to go next. What's going to be his next adventure, right? And all of a sudden, this really cute lady in a classic style pickup truck drives by and ends up pulling over and says, "Hey, are you lost?" And he looks at and it's a beautiful redheaded, she looks like she's middle-aged lady, but beautiful red hair, just really cute as a button. And she says to Tom Hanks' character, "Are you lost?" And of course, he's looking at a map on his, he's outside his car. He put his map on the hood of his car. He's looking at it. And she says to him, "Are you lost?" And she goes, "Why? Do I look lost?" And she says, "Kind of." And he basically tells her he hasn't decided where he wants to go, right? And so she tells him where each road goes, right? I think one road goes further down. She tells him where that goes. Another road uh, can go back to the city, and then I think another road just goes to almost nowhere, right? Or it's like in the middle of nowhere, right? And I think that's the road. I think that's the road the redheaded lady's house is on. So I think that's the house the lady's road's on. Is the road? Her house is on the road that leads to the middle of nowhere. And she jumps back in her pickup truck and she says, "Well, good luck, cowboy." And she drives down the road back to her house. And the camera shows him. The camera shows him looking at each road she had described, right? And then the last road he looks at almost looks like the road that's to the middle of nowhere, and that is where that beautiful redhead's house is, down at that road. And then that's how the movie ends in the movie Castaway. So, like I said, it came out in the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks in it came out in the year 2000. And once again, Tom Hanks plays a character. He plays a FedEx character. He's a bigwig FedEx character. He flies around a lot for travel for his job, and he ends up his plane ends up crashing in the ocean, and he ends up surviving on an isolated, uninhabited island for 4 years. It's a really cool movie. I'd highly recommend it. Yeah, just a really awesome movie. And yeah, I think I'm going to end up finishing up the rest of my food here, which is funny because I ended up talking about the movie Castaway. So, yeah, I'm sure that character who was cast away for 4 years on an uninhabited island, I'm sure he would have enjoyed sunglasses. I'm sure he would have enjoyed this big hat. And I'm sure he wouldn't take for granted the food I'm about to eat and the drinks I'm about to have. So yeah, that's pretty wild. So I'm so glad I got to share this with you guys, the movie Castaway. I'm going to I'm going to tap on these comments here. And it's just a way of thanking folks for coming into the live stream here. Anyways, I hope you guys and gals are all doing well out there. I had a really good Thanksgiving. I had a wonderful Thanksgiving with families and friends yesterday. And enjoyed some really nice turkey. And also enjoyed chilling out with my family and friends. It was pretty awesome. And I'm just sharing out these guys. I'm sharing out these channel names here as a way of thanking them for coming to the live stream here. So yeah, you may have more. There may be more live stream videos where I pick a movie out and talk about it and talk about some of the survival aspects of it. My own channel, Lone Wolf Bushcraft. You guys see me build campfires all the time. I've also shown off various different tents that I use outside. So yeah, on my channel, you'll see tent reviews, you'll see bushcrafting, you'll see camping. I also do some travel vlog videos. I got a playlist of Cape Town videos where I actually hike up Table Mountain in Cape Town, South Africa. I even got a 2021 travel vlogs from Mexico, where I spend 1 week in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and then I spend another week in Sayulita, Mexico. And I believe that playlist is called Mexico Travel Vlogs. And so you can see my Sayulita and my Puerto Vallarta. I also did a couple live streams from Sayulita, Mexico, and I also did a few live streams from Ports of Arta, Mexico. They were a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun making this live stream, talking about the movie Castaway. It was pretty awesome. Anyways, I hope you guys and gals are all doing well out there. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family and friends. Thanks for spending time with me here on the Lone Wolf Bushcraft live stream. I appreciate every one of you. If you end up liking the content of these live streams, and also if you end up liking the content of my videos, please give me a like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video, or I'll see you in the next live stream later. Take care, everyone. Peace. Later, Gators. Take care, everyone. And once again, thank you so much to my subscribers. You guys and gals rock. Thank you to those who've been with me, who've been subscribed to my channel for a long time. And thank you to my new subscribers who've come on board here of the Lone Wolf Bushcraft YouTube channel. So take care, everyone. Have a good day. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Peace. Later, Gators. Cheers. Take care, everybody. Later, Gators.